Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Let's go over to Ghana today and speak to someone who I've always wanted to talk to for several years. His name is Festus. He has had quite a philosophical journey, a spiritual journey. He does a lot for UBC radio. He loves country music, he loves art, and he loves talking to people. Festus, how are you, by the way? And if you don't mind me
Yes.
asking, who is Festus? So you can kind of walk through your life story, and I will help you to tell your story as we walk through the conversation together. Go right ahead.
Yeah, once again, Aaron, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's exciting to be part of this interview. So, wow, who is Festus? Yeah, so Festus is, I was born some 4 decades ago. Virtually, I'm 42 years of age. My journey started, I wasn't born blind. I think in my roughly, let's say in my 7th, 8th or 9th year, then my parents realized I had cataract. So I had to be sent to the hospital from time to time. But in those days, in the 80s, there wasn't much technology when it comes to operating on cataract. So I was given spectacles and I went to the normal school. So I started school as a normal student who used pen and to write and all that. So I think 94, 95, then my sight started deteriorating. I couldn't read from the book. I have to get up, go to the board, go memorize and come write. So then my headmistress realized that no. So she called my mom to tell her that this was the situation and that she thinks that I should be taken to the school for the blind. It was tough for my mother because out of 5 siblings, I am the only person who has visual impairment. And for her to just take me out of 4 siblings, it was very tough for her. So she kept on postponing till one time when she took the bold decision and said, no, I have to take you there. So around 94, I was taken to the school for the blind where I learned how to read Braille. Then I started using Braille in 94 where I did my secondary education. Then basically completed my high school, then applied to the university where I read political science and history for my first degree. Then I came to the media space. It was a bit tough, of course, because a visually impaired person coming to man all those equipment, they feel you're going to be destructive to those equipment. So you go here and it's like, you can't do it. So finally, I had to enroll. After my degree, I have to enroll for certificate in journalism for 6 months, which I completed, and I passed out as the best student among my peers. Came back again to face the job market. It was so terrible, but God being so good, I got recommended by one person, which gave me the opportunity to do my internship with multimedia. They have a lot of radio stations, including Joy FM, Asempa FM, Multi TV, Hits FM, Inshira FM, Love FM. So I got the opportunity to do my internship with Asempa FM, which I did for 6 months, after which I was relieved. Thank God I went to the state broadcaster and I was given opportunity to work there. So I've been working with the state broadcaster for the past 15 years. So for the initial stages, that is what I can say about Festus. So Festus is a media person. He's a communication specialist. I did my master's in integrated marketing communication. So I do a lot of marketing and communications as well. And I work with, I do voluntary services for UVC, radio as well, as you indicated early on. So Aaron, that's what I can say for now. Any further questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And it's a true story. And you, by the way, have a beautiful voice. I love hearing you talk. You have such a beautiful way of speaking, such a
Thank you very
magical,
much.
kind, strong way of speaking. I could listen to your voice every day. Your voice is so beautiful. It truly is. You're blessed with a beautiful voice.
Thank you
Um,
very much.
yeah, man, oh man, you definitely belong in broadcasting. Well, Festus, this is truly incredible. It's incredible because many people in Ghana, I think it's fair for me to say that Ghana is a great nation, and also Ghana would be a nation where it would be challenging to have a disability in some ways. So I think the fact that you've overcome this and have worked really hard really speaks volumes to who you are as a person. And I tremendously appreciate it. In America, we have a huge problem with blind people, as you probably know, not being able to work well and having employment problems. So I think other blind people should listen to your story as a source of motivation and inspiration to maybe work a little bit harder and to really set real goals. So yeah, I guess that's kind of one of the first questions that has kind of popped up in my brain here in my podcasters here. You know, the difference, a lot of people, Festus, will tell me that they're living the American dream. And then they say, well, Aaron, aren't you living the American dream? And I tell them, no, I woke up. So the difference between dreaming and reality and goals is that dreams are things that we never reach, and goals are things that are reachable. So in your life, I can already tell that you know the difference between dreams and goals. What do you really think about setting goals as a successful blind person? How do blind people tell the difference between dreams and goals?
You're right. For me, I always say one thing that so far as we are in the minority, definitely there will be segregation, there will be discrimination, especially probably in the US, in Canada, in UK, in the advanced countries. Yes, maybe there are systems in place where if you discriminate against person with disability, the law will catch up with you. But in Africa, developing countries, hey, if you don't develop tough skin, it becomes a bit of a challenge. Aaron, I must tell you, it wasn't an easy road for me. Sometimes with your degree and everything, the fact that your appearance, you are blind, it tells a story that you are coming to beg or you need arms, you need a favor. They are not looking at your level of academics, level of intelligence, level of capabilities of interest or ability. No, they don't look at that. They look at how they see you from their spectacles. They judge you immediately you enter through the door and they see you are a visually impaired person, you are a person with physical challenge, or you are hearing impaired person. It tells a story that, hey, you can't do it. But for me, I've always said one thing that, look, the more you push me down, I'm like a cock. The more you push me down, the more I rise, because society is there to say things that would demoralize you, to say things that will bring you down, that you tell yourself, at a point in time, you tell yourself, why am I living? It's better to commit suicide and leave this world. But hey, you are a testimony. God brought you onto this earth for you to tell a certain story. So if you don't tell that story, I'm sure when you go there, you will be asked why I gave you this power, I gave you this, and you couldn't make good use of it. So for me, yes, for dreams, we can always dream. Sometimes you dream and it's like, oh, somebody gives you a bundle of money and then you put it under your pillow. You get up and then the first thing you do is to put your hand under your pillow and you realize that it's a mirage. There's nothing over there. Dreams are meant to be achieved. It remains dream if it's not achieved. So for me, setting out goals as a visually impaired person, as a physically challenged person, or as a person with special need, you need to have a tough skin. Sometimes you go, I remember when I wanted to school for my journalism certificate. When I got there, the director of the institution said, what are you coming to do here? I said, all that I'm coming to do is what people come here to do. I may sound a bit sarcastic, But hey, I knew sometimes you need to develop a tough skin. Sometimes the words they will say will just put you down. But if you tell yourself that, look, you are going to brace all odds and tell them that, look, I am capable. Don't look at my disability. Don't look at my physical outlook. Look at what is inward. I bet you when you speak to them, it will change their orientation about you. So I told him that, look, I am here to do what everybody does. And it's like, really? Can you do it? I said, yes. But how are you going to do it? I said, don't worry. We don't have facilities that is going to support you. I said, don't worry. I am an animal and I adjust to every condition that that confronts me. The man just looked at me and said, look, you know what? Instead of you paying full school fees, I would want to give you a half payment. So the school have taken half. You see, sometimes, as I say, and as you rightly said, if you dream and you don't envisage it and you don't implement it, it just becomes a mere dream. So yes, you need to set out to achieve all those dreams by putting them into achievable goals. And I bet you when you do that, the sky will be your limit, Aaron.
Wow. I've never actually intellectualized that in that sense, but you're just simply a brilliant person. Some people are just born ready, and you're an example of someone who's just there mentally, spiritually there. That's truly an incredible philosophy, because I separate dreams and goals. I only focus on goals that are attainable. And you say, no, actually, you should only set dreams that are attainable through attainable goals. So you kind of reverse engineer that philosophy. That is deeply compelling, and truly touching. Absolutely. So Ghana, right? You said, by the way, that you're from Ghana, by the way.
Yes.
I've never been to your great nation, but I have been
You
to
are
East
always welcome. It's a hospitable nation that you.
I know. No, I know it is. I know. You have wonderful food too. I love eating food too.
Yeah.
I've actually been to Eswatini. Yeah, it's a beautiful nation as well. Yeah. So what can you tell me, like, growing up, about like the education system, like in Ghana, just in general? How does the school system work? And, how is the education system structured there?
Yes. So Aaron, I would say that yes, just like any ordinary country, it is structured. You do your basic education for 9 years. You do your high school for 3 years. Then you go to the university or college, as you say it in the US. So it is there, but you see, it's not integrated. I can say when I went to Ekropon School for the Blind, there were about only 3 high schools that were integrative, that would accept visually impaired people. One in the south, one in the two in the north. Basically, it was only across the country. It was only 3 high schools that could accept visually impaired people. So it was either you, after your basic, which is 9 years, you go to either Okwakman Secondary School, you go to Wenchi Senior High School, or you go to Tamale Senior High School, right? That is what it is. But in recent times, there are a lot of schools that are accepting visually impaired persons. And you see, way back in my secondary school days in the 90s, the architecture of the institution was not designed for visually impaired persons. And I bet you we were tumbling over, we were falling into gutters. Look, it wasn't just easy. I remember when I went to class the first time, nobody wanted to sit closer to me because I was a visually impaired person. But you see, as for me, one thing I always say is that I put systems to test. I always want to challenge the status quo. So when I went to class, first and foremost, I told them that yes, I'm a visually impaired person, but I was just like you until I lost my sight. And believe you me, there were a lot of my colleagues who were wearing spectacles. If they took off their spectacles, they couldn't see properly. So the difference between myself and them were because they were wearing spectacles that could aid them. But apart from that, they weren't any of better than me. So we were there. Even when you went to the dining hall to go and eat, when you sat at the table, nobody wanted to sit by you. I don't know what their perceptions were, whether blindness was contagious or whatever it is. But you know, one thing, I always tell people that I will prove you wrong. So when the first semester ended, among the roughly, let's say, a class of 47, the first five, I was part of them. Then people realized that, oh, we could benefit from him when we got closer to him. Now they started getting close. I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. And there were courses where visually impaired people were not venturing into like literature because it had a lot of books to read. But when I went there, I told myself I was going to challenge the status quo. So I took literature as a course. We had over 7 books that we needed to read and be able to prepare for exams, which these friends will come and be recording them for me. We'll be doing discussions together. So to be frank with you, I made a lot of both male and female friends. And in my dormitory, I made them understand that, look, I was just like you until I lost my sight. So, hey, just keep it cool. And they embraced me. I embraced them into my fold and we gelled. So most of them, when we completed senior high school, we met at college once again and we picked up from there. So sometimes, yes, the environment might be intimidating, which up to now it still is, even though there are improvements. But I always say that stand firm, challenge the status quo, and I bet you'll prove to the world that, look, nothing can stop you, Aaron.
Yeah, you're so right. You know, that really speaks volumes to me. I also had a similar experience in university as well, and nobody wanted to be around me then. And I don't really know. I think that when people in any society go to university, I think it's a very challenging time for all people. You know, nobody is truly comfortable in their own skin in university, you know. But that is really fascinating and very, it's a tremendously valuable life lesson. Absolutely. So, you know, so what really tipped you over the edge for this whole fascination that you have with journalism? You know, and you're really interested in radio and broadcasting. So how did you become so fascinated by this? And what journalism, what do you know about the culture of, you know, Ghanaian journalism and journalists, you know, in Ghana, you know, reporting in your country? What do you know about them?
Yeah, so I must be frank with you here that journalism was the last profession or career I wanted to venture into. I wanted to become a medical doctor. Growing as a young boy, my dream was to become a medical doctor to see,
Hmm.
touch lives and also to operate and heal people who were sick
Hmm.
and everything. That was my dream. But at a point in time when I realized that my sight couldn't help me. And as a matter of fact, when I got to the high school, visually impaired students were not allowed to do chemistry, physics, and biology. I challenged the status quo. I wanted to do it. The first time that they were discouraging me, how would you go and do titration with the chemicals? How would you dissect an animal to label them? So virtually, I just have to
Hmm.
give up. I just have to give up. So,
Well, right, right. Well,
mm,
and it's not about giving up. I mean, yes, you had to, and my interjection here is to emphasize a point that as a successful person and as a successful blind person, which you are both of those things, you have learned a very discreet and a very subtle life lesson, which is that you have to be willing to let things go when they aren't going to work. And you have to
you
be
are,
able to tell the difference between those two things. And it's very subtle and it's very hard to tell
you
when
are
you're
right.
supposed to move on. That's why it's
You
hard
are
to move
right.
on because you can't quite
Mm,
tell, well, if I
mm,
push a little bit more, but sometimes, in fact, there have been several huge things that I've wanted in my life that I wasn't able to do. And I was upset for a very long time.
mm,
But then I realized that, well, I just need to move on anyway, because the only person who cares is me. And I just
Exactly.
need to be successful for myself. I need to just go about my own successful business is
Mm,
what I've learned to do. But
mm,
it's as a blind person, whether you're in America or Ghana, it's very hard to tell when to push forward and when to lean back. It's very subtle. It's very hard
there's,
to tell. Yeah.
there's a thin line. You're right.
It's a very hard, it's
Mm, mm,
almost, Festus, if you were to ask me, Aaron, Aaron, how do you tell when to back off of certain
mm.
goals and when to push forward? I would say I have no idea. That's why it's hard to get it right
Yeah,
because
true.
you can't tell. Yeah. You're not alone. I think that a lot of blind people, even Festus, even in America, even in the United States, blind people are discouraged from the sciences. So that's a very common thing. And it's a major push right now in the United States to get blind people involved in science. But
Mm,
they are typically, discouraged. There have been several, successful blind people in the STEM field. But not many. And the reason why it's not many is because quite frankly, most blind people are not as motivated as you and I, and they just become so discouraged early on that they don't push far enough. And most people, whether you're blind or not, most people are not gifted enough in those subjects. The thing is, there's certain subjects where you have to be really, really, really gifted to be employable in that field. And with the STEM, that's what it is. It's only for people who are really gifted. And I'm sure you would be.
you're
But,
true.
but,
You're true.
but it's again, a very subtle little detail. To be successful in STEM, you have to be really gifted and overly motivated to be really gifted.
Mm.
Whereas other things, you can be gifted, but you need a little bit less, you need a little bit less motivation.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
kind of true, with certain things. So the other passion that I have, that I know you have this passion, is history. Let me tell you, man, I could talk to you about history as much as you want. I love history. So
Mm.
what area of history do you love to talk about, man? And what are some key factors that you can tell me about Ghana, like the history of your great nation, man? Yeah,
Yeah, so before I venture into that, let me just
sure.
sell it this. So finally, when I decided to move to the arts, went to the university, and then I was offered political science and history. So that is what I graduated with. So history, yes, I did history in the high school, which is much interesting. You get to know much about Europe, the Americas, the slave trade, everything that you need to know, history of medicine, everything. And look, history made me very analytical. I say history should be made a compulsory subject. I always advocate that history should be made because there's a saying that a child that does not know his history is not worth giving birth to. History is something that you need to know. It guides you and it helps you not to repeat certain mistakes. Yeah, so I learned about a whole lot of things. In fact, the history about Ghana, the Songhai Empire, the Mali. I learned about the Egyptian mummies, so many things. And for me, not just the story about it, but the analytical sense of history. It has helped me in every endeavor when it comes to me applying knowledge and critical knowledge. History helps me. Coming to Ghana, I mean, I wasn't there, but during the colonial rule, I read so much about how the Danes, the Portuguese, the British came, met the local people. I mean, through conquering and everything, they were defeating the whites in several wars. The whites were also defeating them. When it comes to trading, they brought mirrors in exchange of gold. They brought guns in exchange of slaves and all those things. So it really opened me up to a whole lot of analytical things. And more so when I was in the university, every year, my department, which is the history, we had a lot of Americans coming to our department to do either a semester or a year course exchange program at the department. And we really gelled with them. We managed to know much. And that some of them will go back into history, go back to Cape Coast. That is where the slave castle was. They really went there. And some of them realized that, oh, this is where it was. Some of them broke down they couldn't help it. So it is a mixture of a whole lot of things, being analytical, making you sober and realize that this is what happened to our forefathers, and more so a guide into the future. Basically, that is what history taught me as a student of history.
You're so right. I love learning about that as well. Yeah, I have a great passion for Egyptology and ancient history. And
Mm,
I think, and you would agree that if we study more history, we'll understand what's going on now and we'll understand what will happen. And that's what people do not,
exactly.
but people don't get. Festus, I don't know what to tell you, man. People just don't get this. Why are people not understanding what's going on today and tomorrow? Because they didn't understand what happened yesterday.
Because
You
it's
know,
happened before and it's repeating itself.
well, I keep saying that and nobody understands. So good luck. Good luck trying to convince people that you're right about that. Just at some point, you're going to have to give up on that one because you're going to have people that just won't learn their history.
True.
Whether you're from Ghana or Egypt or America, there's some people that just won't get it. And these are
Look,
people.
let me chip
Sure.
in this. I always tell Rocco, who is the director for UVC Radio, the first time I spoke,
And by the way, right here, I should definitely say ditto King Rocco HD and UBC Radio. The sound that binds us together. Okay, go.
yeah, Rocco, the first time I spoke to him, after speaking, I told him that if you are the way your tonation sounds, you are a Ghanaian because your H, when there's a tribe in Ghana, they are called the Gans, and they really have problem in mentioning H. So immediately I heard Rocco's voice. I said, no, and his pronunciation and everything. I told him, Rocco, you are from Ghana. And truly, he considered that, yes, his ancestry partly comes from Ghana. And I said, you see, so with all this, history would be able for you to identify people and tell them that, hey, by your behavior, by the way you do things, by your color, by the way you speak, your descendants came from this direction. And that is the importance of studying history.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
So I descend, I'm a Jewish person and I descend from Polish people in Eastern Europe, by
Okay.
the way. Yeah. Um, okay. I love talking about the roots of things. So what does the word Ghana mean, by the way?
Yes. So Ghana, some people say, I don't know whether you've heard about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He was a Pan-Africanist. He studied in the US, came back to fight for Ghana's independence. So people say that yes, Ghana means that God has appointed Nkrumah already. Others also say that others also say that we took
Every great nation, you have to have some jokes about what it means,
you know, right?
Of course.
Others also say that we took our name from the ancient Ghana Empire
Right.
because
So
it used to be
there was probably there was probably a group of people who called themselves Ghana. There was probably some person who had that name or somebody, or more than likely it relates to a river. Many of the nations in Africa are named based on rivers that flow through them. In many cases, not all. So
yes,
yeah.
exactly. But
Uh-huh.
most often we had the ancient powerful empires like the Songa Empire, the Mani Empire, the Ghana Empire.
Okay, so
So
it was an empire called Ghana.
yes, there was an empire in the ancient time called Ghana. So probably it might have stemmed from but sometimes people make joke and say, oh, because he was the first prime minister and the first Republican president of Ghana, then God has appointed Nkrumah already, Ghana.
That's clever. That's clever. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
America, as you know, the word America comes from the ancient Portuguese explorer Americano, and
Okay. Mm,
yes. Now this is just a story. I don't know if it's true or if anyone was
mm,
appointed, but some guy named Americano Vespucci supposedly sailed on a
mm,
boat from Portugal to some country he didn't know. And when he
mm.
got off the boat and people said, well, what country is this? He said, well, my name's Americano and this is America. So
Wow.
that's how he
Yes.
came up with
Yeah,
it.
wow, I see.
But nobody quite knows
Mm,
the full story, but
mm,
behind that one. But that is deeply fascinating. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
So, nowadays, so you worked really hard and you studied. So then you end up becoming really interested in journalism. So journalism means many things in different countries. So what opportunities are there for journalism in Ghana? Like what do journalists do in your country?
Yes, so basically, journalism, let me take you back to 30 years or 32 years ago. So in the late or the early 80s, to be specific, 31st December 1982, there was a coup d'etat in Ghana. And the civilian government was toppled. So basically, we were under military rule from 1982 right down to 1992, almost 10, 11 years. So there was nothing like media freedom in Ghana. It was only the state, sorry, it was only the state broadcaster that was, even that one, there was a lot of censorship. Before a news item was to be telecasted or broadcasted, it needed to be censored to favor the military junta or the military rulers at that time. Okay, so there was nothing like private media to be able to do what to criticize, to give dissenting opinion when it has to be. So this went on for almost 10, 11 years. Then finally, in 1993, there was a referendum that no, we have to draw a constitution again so that we could go back to democracy and civilian rule. So the 1992 constitution was drawn, and then there was an election, and then the military government or junta at that time metamorphosized into a political party. So they won the 1993 elections, headed by Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. So he ruled for 4 years each. So 2 terms, that is 8 years. Then around 95, that was when people started, trying to come out with a whole lot of critique about the system. So there were journalists springing up, there were radio stations. So the first radio station that was given license was Multimedia Joy FM. That was in 1995. Since then, journalism has gained some strength where governments are criticized, where things of human-centeredness, like human rights abuses, things that would encourage society are reported. So we have reporters who have specialized in human rights. There are reporters who specialize in court proceedings. There are reporters who are into business and commerce. There are reporters who are into environmental reporting. Name it. There are so many of them. There are so many football. Anything, any branch of journalism that you can think about. Yes, we have it in Ghana, and they are very vociferous. They are very critical of all the sectors that needs to be written about. And if there are criticisms, definitely they criticize. If where the credit is due to, yes, they give the credit. So I must say that, yes, journalism is very rife. Yes, you criticize, once or twice. Yes, journalists who probably writes about people who probably are not too enthused about their write-ups. Yes, some of them have gotten beaten. Some of them have been taken to the courts and charged with scandal and other things. So hey, it's a gamut of a whole lot of things. But being a journalist in Ghana, well, it's something that it's interesting. It is good. It is good. I must say it's good because we are in to expose all the goods and bads of our society. And that is what, for me, I love to do. So yes, I would say that journalism in Ghana is good.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Even in America, there are still restrictions, believe it or not, for the press and for our military. There are still things that you're not allowed to say, even in America. So it is very interesting. There's a lot of things that the press is not allowed to say, and there's a lot of things that you are not allowed to say when you're a journalist. So a whole bunch of stuff that they can't say, but they do publish a lot. That's for sure. So you mentioned this first ever radio station, one of the main modern radio stations of Ghana, Joy FM, right? So
Hmm.
what was their genre? In other words, UVC radio would be like a kind of a everything, really an everything station, because they got everything on there. They have everything from music, art stuff that you do to more like cultural shows to like religion. I mean, UVC radio's got it covered. But what's the genre of Joy FM?
Okay, so before I talk about Joy FM,
Sure.
I work with a state-owned media, just like the VOAs or the BBC. So in Ghana, it is
Wow.
called GBC, or the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. That is the state-owned
Cool.
media. Yeah. And we do a whole lot so our programs are segmented towards the needs of society. So, for example, when it comes to TV, I am a producer of TV. I produce in TV. So, and I do radio as well sometimes, but basically I am at the TV section of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. So
Oh,
in the month, in the
that sounds like so much fun. That sounds like that you have the dream job, man. That sounds like so much fun. I can't
Yeah.
resist. So what TV show do you produce and how does it work? And like, what are the ins and outs of that, man? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so basically, I worked on the morning show for almost about, if I'm not mistaken, about 8 to 9 years. So what we do is, every morning we pick a topic. So, for example, social interest topics like maybe, it could be entertainment, it could be, economy, it could be the budget of the country, it could be anything, flood, it could be anything. Then we bring experts to people who are well endowed in those topics to come and enlighten our viewers. Aside that, we bring the newspapers where the newspapers are reviewed, like the headlines are reviewed. So currently, Ghana is going to the polls in December 7th. We are going to elect a new president and then a new set of parliamentarians, or what you people call Senate. So in December, we are going to the polls. So basically, I know the US will be voting in November and Ghana will be we'll be doing ours in December. So the political temperature is really hot. The politicians are crisscrossing the country. So basically, what we do is we bring them now. I must speak about now. So we bring them to come and tell the general public, the citizens, about what they have for them. So they are to explain their manifestos. For example, when it comes to education, now most of the politicians or the political parties are saying that this time around, persons with disabilities would go to the university for free. It's a free university. You will not pay anything. It is free tuition, because they've realized that now a lot of persons with disabilities are making inroads when it comes to educating themselves. And if really you want them to get out of the streets, stopping them from begging, then you have to make some provisions for them. So the major two political parties, like the National Democratic Congress or the New Patriotic Party, all of them are saying that university education for persons with disabilities will be free. They are also saying that they are going to give a quota system where persons with disabilities after university will be given jobs. So these are the things that we probe further, we question them, and we ask them, where are you going to get the funds from? How are you going to implement it? Is it just lip service that you want to render to us, and when you get into power, you slap back? Or it is because it's a social contract you are signing with the people of Ghana? So how are you going to implement it? Because we've had politicians who have done what? Said one thing and then done a different thing. So this time around, we are really putting their feet to the fire to tell them that, look, you can't take us for granted any longer. You must do what you promised, and we will force you to do it. So, hey, the political system is hot. We also do things like, we take it soft sometimes. There are movies, Nigerian movies, Ghanaian movies that we show on the telly. There are other social kids program, educational programs. We do relationship programs. We do marital programs. And there are law programs. The core of society is about educating people to know their rights, to be good citizens and all this. So, of course, there are a gamut of programs that is tailored towards the welfare and the well-being of the Ghanaian society. Basically, it cuts across all the radio stations. I mean, Joy FM also does the same thing. They also do morning shows. They do mid-morning programs. They take it soft. They do hot political programs. They do, I mean, meet the people. They bring your leadership and then you question them. So it's a gamut of programs tailored towards the needs of the society as and when. So basically that's what the Ghanaian media is tailored towards. You right?
Yeah, I love it. Loving it, man. Your politicians sound just like American politicians, So it sounds oddly familiar. You mean to tell me that there's dishonest people in Ghana? Wait, I didn't know that. Wow.
Oh yeah, true.
Oh, really? That is a shocker there.
True. Yeah.
Because I think it's really interesting because in the United States, the politicians say, oh, people with disabilities can work and we're going to set up programs. No, they don't. It's no better or worse than anything you have or haven't experienced. Just because I'm American does not exclude me from being challenged in my life. And that's a very subtle thing. But what I want to express to you is many people, in my opinion, many people from developing nations feel, not saying you feel, I'm not saying you said it, but I'm saying a feeling has been transmitted to me as an American that people in the developing world feel like, oh, you American people, you don't have challenges, you don't have discrimination. No, that's not true at all.
Aaron, let me tell you something. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Mm-hmm. I have always been of that notion that, look, most often we use America as a yardstick when we are demanding the system to do things. But until maybe 10 years now, I've had the opportunity to interact with people living in the US, in Canada, in developed countries, and they tell you, Festus, it is not as easy as you think. So my orientation has totally changed. Look, there are people, I mean, I was speaking to a lady friend and she's like, Festus, the reason why I don't go to church is because when you go to church, nobody will even approach you and say, hello, welcome to church. Everybody will shun your company. That's the reason why she doesn't go to church.
Indeed. In America, a lot of people with disabilities feel excluded by the religious. That's a very strange thing. People who get into these religious groups, and I mean, I didn't plan on getting into it, but it is true that religious organizations, this is really weird. Religious organizations in the United States are, believe it or not required to follow our Americans with Disabilities Act. So they're actually excluded from following the federal laws that require. It's a weird thing. It has to do with taxation. So a lot of times people with disabilities simply just
don't go to church.
Just wouldn't, because they would know that the religious organization doesn't have to be accommodating. It's a bizarre thing. It truly is bizarre. Yeah.
I see. I see.
Yeah. But I think that's really good, because you need to hold people accountable. And quite frankly, I mean, politicians they say a lot of these things, but in essence, the situation has worsened since the pandemic moving forward. So it's definitely a very hypocritical time period. Yeah.
That's true, because in Ghana, I always say, until recently, maybe I can take it from maybe 2016 that way, most of the programs or the manifestos of the various political parties, you will not find them in Braille. But you see, the system, you will not find it. So visually impaired persons were just not getting all the information. Probably they might be informed by radio or television or something, but getting into the nitty-gritties of the manifestos of the various, or the blueprints of the various political parties, no, they don't. But in recent times, they make sure that all the time when they are preparing their manifestos, persons with disabilities issues are factored into the medium through which visually impaired persons can read and analytically analyze the manifestos. They are always making sure that they put them in Braille. So I can say that, yes, it's a step forward, and we are trying our best to also make sure that systems work, they promise, and they deliver on what they promise us, because the lip service over the years has really not helped us. And to be frank with you, there are a lot of persons with disabilities who are employed, we are urging them to go to school. Yes. So if you go to school and you graduate and you can't get gainfully employed, how can you feed yourself? Virtually, you go back onto the street again with that degree, with that diploma to go and beg. But at least if there is an automatic job or something for you, immediately you are done. When you are going to speak to somebody on the street, that, hey, my brother, I want you to get off the street. It's not safe here. Why don't you go to school? Why don't you get something to do with your hand? But if the systems are not working, the person completes, and after 5 years, 3 years, the person is not getting work to do. Hey, man must survive. So definitely, he or she will go back onto the street. And it's not his fault or her fault because the system has not created the enabling environment for such a person to get work to do.
Right, right. And the system, even in the United States, there's no incentive. The other thing is, which is a subtle thing, there has to be an incentive for organizations to hire people for gainful employment who are disabled. There has to be a motivation for the companies, an incentive. And there's really no incentive, in my opinion, right now in the United States. So it is a very severe thing. Um, but, that is, how it is. I mean, one thing that we can do, which is what we're doing, is educating people, right? Giving people more knowledge is always the right thing to do. And that's also a very important thing. If you help other people to be more knowledgeable, that's a huge help. So yeah. All right. Well, you do your morning show. And is this morning show from, GBC? Is this something that's ever like streamed around the world? Like, can other people like watch this through YouTube, or like who I guess who actually, I mean, apart from Ghanaian people, who consumes GBC? And actually, let's move towards marketing. So who consumes
Mm.
this media that you're helping to produce?
Yes. So, you see, we have the private media and we have the state media, but most often, because of sensationalism, people from the private media would always want to be the first to break the news. And sometimes they are quick to break the news and then it might not be true. You see, when you do that, it dents your image as a news hub or a news house. For GBC, we go through the rigorous of everything before we bring it out. So most often, international news agencies pick up our reports because they know that GBC will just not spew out anything. So we have people watching us live on Facebook across the world, Instagram, YouTube. People watch us. In recent time, there are social media platforms that we connect to. So it's not necessarily being at home watching us on TV, but on the go, immediately you type in gbc.com, www.gbc.com, you will be able to stream live all our programs. Our breakfast show, it starts from 6 to 10 in the morning, Mondays to Fridays. You will be able to. So our targeted audience or our market audience cuts across all manner of people. And I must tell you a story. That was 2012. I had done production for Wednesday. So I went to my immediate boss, took him through all that we were going to discuss. Then around 2, I started, there was this snippets of information seeping through, like a great person in this country has passed on. A great person. And you see, people were ready to go on air, but GBC should be the last, because immediately GBC says that this has happened, then BBC would authenticate it by saying that such a news has come up, but we held it from GBC. So if it is not true, our reputation is at stake. So we make sure that we are very careful in churning out any information. So I went to my boss and I told my boss that I am hearing this. I want to play some calls to find out if it is true. So I started calling. Some people were very close to this person. I started calling them. They were not picking. I called this person. He wasn't picking. And finally, I called one person again and he picked it. Then apparently it was our sitting president who died that afternoon, the Ghanaian president. He went to the office not feeling too well, and then he was rushed to the hospital and he died whilst on the job. So we couldn't just come out to say it that this. We needed to cross-check from all angles to make sure that it is true before finally Ghana Broadcasting Corporation will bring it out. So immediately my sources told me that. I went to my boss and I told my boss that this is what has happened. But because we have still not, let us hold on. 2, we can't go ahead with the program for tomorrow because the Ghanaian president has passed on. We can't go discuss something not relating to the president. So Aaron, I must tell you, I left the office around 11 p.m. I needed to change production, change everything, get my resource persons. Some of them would have to fly from maybe, would I say almost about an hour plane trip to Accra, which is the capital, to join us. Some of the president's classmates, we have to quickly rally around. I left the office around 11 p.m. when I was supposed to close at 5 p.m. All in the name of something has happened. We need to do a new production so that we can go ahead. And trust me, when I left 11, I got home roughly around 12 a.m. By 3 o'clock, I was up preparing to come back to the studio to start that program because everybody will be looking out for good information, authentic information from Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. And I tell you, it was just marvelous. Even though it was a painful moment for Ghanaians, we did an excellent production, and after which the management wrote a letter to us thanking us for good work done. Another thing was when the UN Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan, he's a Ghanaian. He also passed on. Luckily, I had to produce that funeral in Ghana, and it was so excellent. That same, we put it off, and were congratulated for good work done. So, Aaron, in our own small way, in our own small corner, we are brightening our corner where we are.
Oh my God, man. The fact that yes, I remember, that name when that person, the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan passed away. Yes. I know who you're talking about actually. And the world media, was very aware of it. But the fact that you produced the show for the country of Ghana to be able to watch that and to understand, I mean, man, that's whether you're blind or not. That's an incredible accomplishment to say that you had an influence in producing that, to respect his life and to show the people that person's life. That's an incredible accomplishment.
Let me just chip in this in. As the lead producer, when my boss called me, he said, Festus, as I said, he said, what do you think we can tell the world about Kofi Annan? I said, sir, but you are my boss, so you have to direct. He said, Festus, I know what you're capable of doing. I leave it to you. Go back, think about it, come and tell me. So I went back, picked the topic, researched, did my synopsis and everything, and then I took it to him. He read through it, it's like, yes, but you know what? We have a general meeting with the director of TV tomorrow. So you would have to go and defend why we should do this. As I said, but I am not the head. You are my boss. I have given it to you. I can give you the guidelines. Could you believe that when we went for the production meeting, my boss was sitting down. When they called that, okay, so production, what do you think we can discuss about Kofi Annan? And it's like, my boss said, Festus, take us through. And my director of TV is somebody who is extremely critical. You can't convince him. He will throw off everything off the table, trust me. And it's like, sir, the first thing I want us to look at is the life of Mr. Kofi Annan in retrospect as the UN Secretary General, the impact that he had in solving a lot of crises and all that. And two, his life as a Ghanaian and an African, and how the African story can be told to the youth that, look, you can rise, you can achieve so far as you are determined to get there. He started nodding his head and he said, yes, that's good. That's good. So that's how come we're able to pull that program. And that was the discussion we had on that show, Aaron.
Wow. My God. But the fact that you had an influence in that and directed that, I mean, that's something you should be proud of for the rest of your existence. I mean, that's an incredible, touching accomplishment that truly, truly is. And then you're also very knowledgeable about marketing, right? So you've studied marketing of media and the way that certain things are shown to the public. So, as far as that goes, respective to that, what do you know about like marketing of radio shows? Because this is always a hot topic here in the United States.
Yes. So market, they said there's a saying that you put your money where your mouth is. No company will just throw money to a TV station or radio station because they need adverts. No, they want returns. That is why they will commit themselves into this contractual agreement, or they'll come to. So first and foremost, there have to be a market survey. Okay. Look at your targeted audience. What programs would you, and to be frank with you, in recent times, most of the Ghanaian TV stations are all showing Mexican and Spanish soap operas because
of all things to show, they choose to show that.
Exactly, and that is what is selling.
That's very entertaining.
And you know what they do, because it is in Spanish and in Mexican. There's a local dialect called Chi. So they do the voice Chi. There's a local dialect called Chi. It is more or less spoken about, if I'm not mistaken, roughly about 60 to 70 people. Whether you are an airway, whether you are in Ga, definitely you understand Chi. So they do a voiceover of all these Mexican soap operas into Chi.
They dub it in Chi. That's
in Chi.
Yeah, Chi. Yeah, Chi.
Yes. And the ladies love it. Look.
Oh,
some of
I think that's just how well. Okay, so the women they're just entertained by it. It's just it's just entertaining. It's just for entertainment. Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's always surprising to me the silly stuff that we can watch. Where I think that's the silliest thing to watch, but then when you research how much money the thing makes each year, I was like, well, no wonder they do it. Look at how much profit that thing makes. It's ridiculous.
I'm telling you, it's true. I remember I tailored a program called Inclusiveness. It's a disability oriented program where we seek to advocate for anything that persons with disabilities are confronted with. Can you believe that?
I can.
I went out looking for sponsors, and I didn't even get one sponsor onto that program. I have to use my pocket money. Right, yes, I have to use my pocket money to be paying for persons with disabilities who come onto my show. I have to give them money for their transportation back because I loved what I was doing. And we went out there looking for sponsors. Nobody, because issues about persons with disabilities are put at the back burner. Nobody wants to talk about it. But day in, day out, people are becoming disabled through car accidents. People are losing their sight through glaucoma, through cataract, all manner of things. But you see, because it is far away from them, you go there, they don't see why they should put money into a disability-based program. So you see, marketing has become a bit challenging because the programs that you feel that these programs should sell, when you go, marketing managers of the various companies wouldn't pump money into it, but they'll pump money into things that would not benefit, like ladies exposing themselves in the form of pageants and everything. Yes, they'll pump their money into it. But I tell you, when it comes to educational purposes program, like what I was telling you about inclusiveness, nobody wants to come on board. So yes, they look at where they will get extreme profits. But you see, remember that at any point in time, disability is just a step away from you. You might get up not disabled. You'd sit in your car, drive through town before you come back home. You've been struck with one disability or the other. And I always tell them that, look, you might think that, but wait until it gets to you before. For that, maybe I have been in it for 10 years. I've survived it. What about you? You need to start afresh. You would have told yourself, if these facilities, if this thing was advocated for, I wouldn't be where I am today. But you thought that it was so far away from you. But you see, today, I don't wish that for my worst enemy, but I tell you, it is just a walk away from us.
Yeah, you're very wise. Yeah, and you're correct. Absolutely. What can you tell me when it comes to, the podcast culture? Podcasting has really taken off now. So what can you tell me about Ghanaian podcasting?
Well, podcasting, I think from my perspective, I think it is there, but it's not as the US, the UK. What is thriving much here this time around is the YouTube and the TikTok, because that one, there's monetary attachments to it. You can cash out when you have a certain amount of viewers. But with the podcast, it has not catched up. It does not catch up more than the YouTube and then the TikTok and then the Facebook thing. But I know that one day it will get up. But most often, yes, most of the radio stations and the TV stations, most of their programs are pushed to their podcast at any point in time. If you want to go revisit it, you can go download it and listen it at your own convenience. But recently, what is catching up the ish is all about TikToking and then the YouTube and then the Facebook. That is where the monies are. And that is what the youth are into. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and probably Instagram as well. That's very
And Instagram, Instagram
that's
as
a
well.
huge
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Which, of course, you have to present. That's why people need to learn to present themselves in the right way, in a professional sense, because you're always being watched all over the world. That's why people should only produce the right content. Whether you have a following on Instagram or not, or which I do, and things like that. But that's incredibly fascinating.
But Aaron, you agree
Sure.
with me that negativity sells, bad news sells.
Oh
When it
yeah.
comes to marketing, they say sex
That's the
sells,
thing.
bad
That's
news
not
sells.
that's not just in Ghana. That's in everywhere. That's why I try to not watch the news, because the news is only bad things. Very rarely do they show a story that's good, and quite frankly, when you really intellectualize YouTube, when you look at the majority of the videos on YouTube, especially the content that's viral, most of that is either a bad video where they're showing
Mm,
something bad, or it's about
mm,
something bad that
mm.
happened, or it's about bad people.
It's
But
true.
but the reason why certain podcasts like Aaron's Opinion and many, many, many others simply have a smaller audience is because people don't want people don't want things that are nice and normal and positive. For some
You
reason,
are
people only want
professional. You are being professional.
people only want to hear the bad story, and I think that's a very
And that is
telling
what
thing.
sells. So you choose between giving them the bad stories and sell. But you see, as Christians, what influence do we have on people who look up to us? That is one philosophy I live with. You can get all that money, but ask me, are you leading your followers on the righteous path, or you are leading them astray? That is up to all of us to think about.
You're right, and I think many people all over the world are led astray. But it's overly clear to me, crystal clear to me, that you're just there's just everything is good about you. You're just one of these people that's truly doing the right thing in your country, and truly leading people in the right direction, or at least you're trying to lead them in the right direction. But certainly, as we say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can only do so much.
Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah, you are so right. So what sorts of the other thing that I was wondering is, what can you tell me about like public transportation in your country? Like, how do people get around Accra? What is the city like of Accra?
Ooh. So transportation, so normally we go by the cab or the taxi, and then we have these vans that is called trotro. So normally most of these cars come from Europe and the Americas. It is in a farm, and it's in a van form. But when it's come to Ghana, they cut it and then they put glasses at the back, and then they put seats in them. Then yes, they put seats in them. They fabricate seats in them. But there are original cars that equally come imported that have already fixed seats in them. Those ones have the seat belts and everything is from home, originally from home. So, but those vans that normally carries goods, when they come to Ghana, it's cut open and glasses and seats are fit into it. So that is the medium through which we go. There are also train services, but it used to be very effective in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But this time around, maintenance. So there are some places it's only maybe from Tema, which is the capital, to Circle Accra. The government says that they are trying their best to extend it to different regions, but I'm not seeing it yet. But apart from that, the trotro and then the cab or the taxi, there is also Uber. There's Uber service in Ghana. So, for example, I normally use Uber to work. I had my own car that I employed a driver to drive me. But you see, it's another thing. When you are giving somebody employment, 1, 2, he sees you, a visually impaired person, that he is doing you a favor. So when you ask him to go by the rudiments and the prescription of the job, they feel they are doing you a favor. So at a point in time, I couldn't help it again, but to tell him that I've relieved you of your duties. So now I go to work by Uber. So I'm in my house. I just open the app, just click on it. Then the car locates me to my location. I get out, hop into it. And then after dropping, I pay the driver off. There are other services like Bolt, which is also like Uber. There's other one like Shazi. There's another one like,
wow.
There are about 4 or 5 hailing apps in Ghana. There is,
wow. Well, that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Yeah, mostly in America, it's mostly just Uber and Lyft. Mostly.
There's also Yango. There's also Yango. Yeah, there's also Yango. So about 5 of them. But most of it, I'm so comfortable with Uber.
Yeah.
So all the time I pick Uber to work and back. It makes my commuting so easy, flexible. But I have friends. Anytime maybe I have to go for long distances, yes, I call my friends and then I get my car and then we travel. Then when we come back, I pack it and then they go back home. So yes.
Sounds good.
It's yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds great, man. Surely you're a man of many hobbies, and surely there's things you do for fun when you're not doing all this other important stuff. So what do you like to do for fun when you're not working?
Oh, I'm a foodie person. I love to cook. Trust me. Even after this, I am really going to prepare my delicacy. It's called kokonte with palm nut soup. I love to cook. I love to try new things, new recipes all the time. I'm always at the kitchen. If I'm not doing anything, I just want to get to the kitchen and try something new. And sometimes I cook and then I invite my friends. In fact, I can say, when I prepare, I don't know whether you take pork, but when I prepare grilled pork for you bite your fingers, man. Yeah, so I love to cook. I love to travel. Yeah, I love to travel, visit new places, go to the greens. Meet new people. I love to read. I love to listen to music, country music, reggae.
Well, speaking of country music, we've heard a rumor that there's a thing I almost forgot. Not only do you love country music, but you love helping people on UVC radio to enjoy country music. There's that country cafe. What are you so shy about? Why don't you tell people to tune into Country Cafe with Festus? How does someone tune into that?
Yeah, so you just go to www.unitedvisionconnect.org. Just when the website open, you see listen to. So you just click on the listen to, voila, you can just listen to all our programming. But if you really want to listen to Country Cafe, it comes your way every Thursday, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. So anytime you want to listen, yes.
So, and how does that work? You know, you have a great appreciation for country music, but how do you choose your music selection each week?
You know, this one takes me back. You know, when I was a kid, anytime that there was my father's friends come to the house, I had to be the DJ in the house. I have to play the music for them, you know, as young as 6, 7 years, I have to do. And you know, those times it was the cassette. You play this and you turn the back or use the pen to roll it and then play it back again, you know.
Right.
So
I do remember that.
I am the era of Walkmans, not Dixman or not MP3s. I'm an era of Walkmans, you know. I love my Walkman. So, you know, I will always play music for my father and the friends anytime a get together was organized. So that is where, and I started with Kenny Rogers, Don Williams, Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, all those old country stars. So growing up, I have had this love for country. I love country music in my car, in my house, on my phone, everywhere in my office. I will always want to listen to country music. So when the opportunity came for me to do country music on UVC radio, it's like, oh, wow, that's good. I should be able to do it. And I started normally, look, I have, if I'm not mistaken, I have over 10,000 country musics on my hard drive, which is my library. So anytime, and sometimes day in there are new releases. So I just go onto the net, just get the artist, get to download it. So every day, every Thursday, I just don't repeat song. I play new songs for my listeners. And I have a section of the program that is called the African Proverb segment or the Positive Word segment. The African Proverb will give you proverbs that will tickle your fancy. Some of them are so funny and you will love to listen to it. And then the Positive Word segment, we take words of encouragement that we work around it to encourage people who are down, people who probably might be confronted with one thing or the other. I am in to tell them that, look, when you listen to it, can be a 5-pointer, 6-pointer, 10-pointer, but anytime when I'm done with it, the feedback is I am encouraged, I am excited, at least I have picked up some knowledge from whatever it is. So it is music coupled with education and fun. That is what we do on the Country Cafe.
It's a wonderful program. It's a wonderful program.
Yeah.
Are you finding, and is UVC Radio finding that there's a lot of Ghanaian downloads during that hour? Is that hour a time when a lot of Ghanaian people want to tune into you, or what have you come to understand about your specific, your audience for that show? Like how is that show performing?
It's great. It is growing from leaves, and trust me, Aaron. Every Thursday, I get not less than 20 people adding up to the program. And statistically, I am always giving the statistic as to the number of people. And I tell you, even if you have an online radio station and you are being listened to just by 20 people, I tell you, you are great. So for me to have over 600, 700 people listening to me across the world, in the US, in Canada, in the UK, everywhere. Oh my God. I mean, I've just been with UVC Radio just a year and a half now. But if you get almost about 700 people listening to you from Africa, oh, then the sky should be your limit, Aaron. You can do better. And that is what I want to do. I want to bring new segments onto the program. Mm-hmm. I want to really catch up. And let me tell you one thing. Anybody can go onto the net and check from Mixcloud. Currently, out of 40 charts of country presenters across the world, I'm number 6.
Really?
Yes, I'm number 6.
So
If you go
you've
currently out of
you've
40
researched all the country music shows around the world, all of them around the world that you're interested in.
on Mixcloud,
Right,
it's an
right.
app on Mixcloud. We have over
Sure.
thousands of country
Oh my
presenters
God.
who've put their programs on it. But the sampled top 40, I am number 6.
That's ridiculous.
My first program, I
That's
was on
incredible.
my first program was the first program I put on Mixcloud. I was 14. I moved to
You moved
12.
up.
And then now I'm number 6. And I know the next one that I put, I'll be number 1. Trust me.
I trust you.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That you're just doing so much. You're just such a gift, man. You're just helping so many people. You have such a strong way of helping people, but then, you also have such a sweet and lovable and loving and kind, your kindness and love just seeps right through. It truly does. It absolutely does.
So
Wow.
grateful. So
That's
grateful.
incredible. Yeah. So I'm sure as we walk to the end of a beautiful conversation, I'm sure that you have a couple questions for me. So I'll give you a couple questions. And as I like to say, if you can ask me, Aaron's opinion or Aaron Richmond, only one more question to really make me sweat, to get under my skin as a podcaster, what do you want to know about me?
So maybe I'll ask you maybe 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I see myself continuing to help people. As we say on the podcast, I can see myself helping one person today and 1 million people tomorrow, which is basically the philosophy of just keep helping, keep being helpful, and keep helping others to be more knowledgeable. And the other subtle thing is I want to see you be more successful than me because, there's a very subtle thing that the greatest accomplishment and the greatest compliment to who we are as people is to know in our heart that we help someone else be a little bit more successful. And
That's true.
that's a very important thing. That's where I see myself.
That's true. And probably my final question is, continue to do the good things that you are doing.
Thank you.
Don't let
Well,
anything
that's
put
a
you.
statement. I thought you were going to ask me something. You're saying statements.
Yes, yes, it's a statement, but it will end with a question.
Oh, a statement that morphs. It's one of those morphers where you start out asking a statement and then you put question marks at the end. Right. Okay. Go.
I know it wouldn't be an easy drive for you. Definitely there will be storms. One philosophy that I always live with is, when you embark on a journey and you stop to throw stones at any barking dog, you will never get to your destination. My last question to you is, how would you target? Yes, I don't know. Maybe I stand to be corrected. I am the first Ghanaian, or probably the first African to have been interviewed. I don't know, but
No, actually, no and no. Actually,
okay.
I'm thinking back to this now. No and no.
Mm.
We have many people later today. You're going to be added to the WhatsApp group, and there are many
Okay.
people from South Africa.
Mm.
I've had people from Uganda, Kenya, Gambia,
Mm.
up in Northern Africa, Algeria. I mean, not Algeria, but no, Tunisia for sure. But yes, there was a Ghanaian, who we had on the show. All right, one more question though, and I'll definitely put you in touch with them. But yes, what do you specifically want to know
Yes,
before we walk out of here today? You sure?
yes, so what I would want you to do is, just don't limit. There are a lot of Festus in Africa who are even much better. Put the spotlight on them.
I sure will.
Let them tell you their stories, and I bet you'll be fascinated. So don't just put your spotlight in the people in the developed countries.
Oh, we do.
But at least
that's
send it
beautiful
across.
advice. No,
Yeah.
certainly. No, you're very wise. No, we have listeners from all the continents tune in.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just, oh, I know who it is now. Okay. Anyway, I will put you in. Oh, you know what? I wonder if she even remembers. You're the second Ghanaian to be on the show, and now I
Oh,
remembered who it was. There was
oh,
someone who
okay.
came to the show many years ago. She's another fascinating person like you. But yes,
Okay.
so yes, that's So, but where do you want to end today? Maybe asking me one final question. Absolutely.
Yes. So my final
Hmm.
question is Aaron's opinion.
Right.
Do you intend going live at any point in time where you're
Hmm.
going to build a studio for yourself and now it's going to be like the Oprah Winfrey show where it is going to be live and we are going to
Well,
watch you live, not just the audio,
in
but we are definitely
funny.
going to go live.
Funny you mention it. And this is a beautiful, fascinating way to walk to the end of the conversation. In many cases, I do stream this live on YouTube. Today, I just wanted to get into the conversation because I knew I was gonna love talking to you so much. But many people can go back and as we connect later today, you'll learn that on YouTube, there's, it's a YouTube channel, it's a podcast, and then there's a WhatsApp group for you, which I will certainly, later on today, I'll put you into the group.
Okay.
But yes, this is in many cases streamed live, although I find that in the media space, it's not making a monumental difference one way or the other because people want to download no matter what. So it doesn't
Mm,
really, the live factor, that's not, I mean, I understand what you're asking, but
mm,
that's not an excitement, I guess is the way to say it. That's not as, uh, thrilling as that once was because everybody can do it. But what
mm,
not everybody can do is what you and I do, which is to
mhm.
produce knowledgeable content. In other words, what's
Sure.
more important than live is knowledge.
Mm.
And that's what we do.
The reason why I asked
Sure.
that was probably, it can be engaging, it can be for that, somebody wants to ask a
Hmm.
question
Hmm. Yeah.
that maybe you have not really touched on. So to
So
make
in
it
some
very
cases,
engaging,
in some cases, I do open it to the audience. It's just today I simply chose not to. But what you will find is there will be many more episodes. And when in some days I choose to send out the links. In other, it's just kind of what mood I'm in and kind of what I just have a feeling in my podcaster ear for what I need to do. Sometimes I
okay.
can tell that I want to just learn from the person. This is a really good question.
Mm,
Sometimes I feel like I want to just dig into the person kind of directly and just sort of have a personal conversation. Other
right.
times, I find that sometimes bringing audience members, and we do it here at Aaron's Opinion all the time, but not always, that
Mm,
can cause, well, for one thing, the audio is less good when you have a lot of people on the call. For another, it can also serve as a distraction some of the
yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
so, yeah, I got to be careful about what moment I do that. Now, over time, you'll be invited to stuff and you will certainly be an incredible person in the audience who will ask questions of my future guests. And I will probably make sure that happens, provided of the timing of things and things like that. But as I will tell you, your go-to place to know what's going on is just to be on the WhatsApp group. And I will put you into that later and you'll have there's other podcasters that are in there. There's many other audience members who are all guests on the show and
Mm,
things like that. But
mm.
that's how all this works. Yeah.
That's,
So
that's, that's good.
all right. So if someone wants to get in touch with Festus, how do they do that?
Well, so I'm on Facebook. You can type, my name is mouthful, so probably I have to take my time to spell it out. So you can type FESTUSAGBENYEZI. AGBENYEZI.
How,
Facebook.
how do you say by
Ag-
the way, how do you say that name? How do you say your name? Festus, and then how do you say it?
Agbenyezi.
Ah,
It's just,
okay.
it's just like the Australian president, Ebenezi. But this one is Agbenyezi. The Australian president is Ebenezi.
Well, actually, I didn't know that.
Oh, I see. I see.
I'm just
So
I'm an American and Australia is really far from me.
I
It
know,
was
right?
I
Yeah.
wasn't terribly I wasn't wondering at this particular moment. But what
I,
you also wrote, well, Festus, I want to say from my
I
heart to
mean, let me
yours.
also say
Sure,
that you can
sure,
also
sure.
get me on WhatsApp. You can
Mm-hmm.
get me on +233. That's +233 country code 246-808393 +233-246
Mm-hmm.
808393. And also on
Yeah.
Instagram, you can get me on Instagram. as well.
You know what? I tell you what, let's actually I'll send you more information today, but we do need to connect on Instagram. And obviously you understand that we need to, share our posts between us so that your followers can download this for sure.
Definitely.
But absolutely. Festus, I say thank you for being so patient this morning coming into the studio. And thank you for spending your afternoon. This was utterly fascinating, as I knew it would be. And as we say, mega ditto over there to you, man. You're just there. You're just doing the right thing. And of course, mega ditto to King Rocco HD. Huge thank you, man, for getting me in touch with Festus. Much appreciated. And of course, mega ditto to UVC Radio, the sound that binds us together. Don't forget to tune into my favorite show, Country Cafe with Festus, every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. By the way, if you're in Ghana, that's 8:30 p.m. if you're in Ghana. So don't forget. Sure. All right, man. Well, look, everybody, that was a wonderful conversation. And as we say here on Aaron's Opinion, Festus, you are forever part of the Aaron's Opinion family. Be well and have a wonderful rest of your day in Ghana. Take care, everybody. We'll be back soon. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow.